Welcome to the Seth Campbell podcast. This show is to equip you with real world tactics that improve your leadership skills, build your wealth, and cause you to leave a multi-generational impact on your world. Real happy to be back with everybody today. We took a brief hiatus. It was partially traveling and sickness. I was sick for a little while, and not COVID. It's weird. Isn't it weird how that's the very first question everybody asks now? Like, anybody's sick? I was sick for a couple of weeks. Did you have the COVID? No, it wasn't that, I don't think. And yet here I am. There are regular sicknesses still. So I had that. This week, I'm real excited about this episode. It is something that I've recognized inside of my leadership many times over the years, and constantly is a conversation with myself and other leaders that I have the opportunity to work with. I call it, summed up, training processes, managing outcomes. Sometimes I'll say it in short, manage the outcome. That's my code word on it. And it's just this idea of managing outcomes, training processes. I'll break it down for you here and see if you can identify with this struggle. I think for a lot of people in leadership, this is going to be one of those ones that is a good, oh my gosh, that might be what I'm dealing with moment. Because too often, people we hire, they're not performing as we've hoped or identified or wished. And we keep trying to help them, and something is just not working. And it's not always on a new hire, although that's when it's most prevalent. It very much could be on someone that's been with us for a while, but there's this idea of, I don't know, it's a good person. I'm trying to help this individual. It's not working out. And we start to have this internal dialogue. So tell me if you can relate to any of this. Did I train them enough? Did I give them a realistic expectation? Like maybe the goal was too high, or too short of a time frame, or it was too much to take on for somebody who is new in the role, or thing like that. Maybe they need more time. Maybe I should have been there more. I wasn't around a lot when they first were taking this on or tackling this issue. Maybe they're just the wrong person. By the way, we don't do that. There are no wrong people. There's just wrong roles. So just internalize that. I will constantly remind you of that. That's a mantra that we live by. There's no wrong people. They're all right people. It's just maybe they're in the wrong role, and there's another role for them somewhere else. By the way, it doesn't have to be with you yet. There's no wrong people. They're all right people, just in the wrong role. So the truth, though, however, out of all of those, did I train them enough? Did I set a realistic goal? Maybe they need more time. Maybe I should have been there more. Maybe it's the wrong fit, wrong role. The truth is, it could be all of those, and yet that's not the real issue, which is why people struggle with this one. It actually could be any of those, yet that's not the real issue. The real issue might be the leadership model that you're using with that individual. And the leadership model that I'm here to teach today is called train processes, or the how, train the how, manage outcomes, or call that the what. So it's training the how, managing the what, training processes, managing outcomes. Sounds simple. However, most leaders have it backwards. I see it every single day with leaders for years, including myself, that I have the opportunity to work with. And most leaders do it backwards. We manage the process, we manage the how, and then we attempt to train the outcome, train the what. And we get obsessed, particularly with managing the how. And this is where things can go off track. So I'll give you a couple of examples that kind of help. I'm one of those metaphor speakers, if you haven't figured it out by now. And because when you study success, the patterns of success all across the world, and it's a very good thing to do, because it's in Proverbs, it's in the good book, the Bible, that there's nothing new under the sun. And you'll see that there's these success patterns. By the way, there's failure patterns all across time. There really is nothing new under the sun, and it repeats. So it's a good idea, wherever you are in success, particularly sustained success over time, find the patterns, and you'll start to see things like this. So if we're thinking about sports, is a good analogy for business, by the way, almost always, because it involves a group of people attempting to achieve something together under high pressure intensity. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's business too. So in sports, this concept would be like managing the outcome would be tantamount to, as the leader or as the coach or as the owner of the team, my expectation, what I manage, is wins and the score, like the outcome. Like that's the ultimate expectation, is we're going to win games. The ultimate expectation is we're going to score points. What I would train on are the plays, the how do we win. And the interesting thing is, in the business world, and a lot of you will identify with this because you're the highly talented group, is highly talented individuals prefer that. In other words, like if I said to you, hey, how would you like to be in an opportunity? If I was your boss and I said, look, around here, I'm just going to teach you, here's how you score points here. And here's a couple of ways that worked in the past. However, you have autonomy, you have freedom on finding other ways to score points, but this is how the game is won. This is how points are scored. Here's a playbook that has worked for others before. Here's some plays, and you have some space and some freedom to design and create and find other ways to score. But make no mistake, this is how we win. This is how you score. That, for talented folks, is very relieving. It's this idea of, because what's the opposite? And many of us have been in that work environment where it's not always clear how to win. Some relationships are like, it's not always clear how to win. It's not always clear how to score. Like I call it the moving goal line. Like it keeps changing how I win here. It keeps changing how we score points here. And you, boss, Mr. or Mrs. Boss, you seem more obsessed with, did I run the play exactly the way you used to run it when you were here, or the way you want it run? And I don't even know, what are we doing anymore? You care more about, did I go left or right exactly at this time? Did I show up at this time? Did I be at this? Did I feel like this? Instead of, are we winning? Are we scoring? In fact, I don't even remember how we win here anymore. Like that environment starts to have very common when we get this process backwards, this leadership model. That, by the way, is a sign of a leader who's now gone the other way, and they're managing processes, managing the how, training the what, training the outcome. And I'm telling you, man, it is deadly in business. So in sports, it would be like, appropriate would be, here's how you win. This is how the game is. This is the game. This is how you score points. This is how you win. Here's some plays that have worked before. Process. I'm going to train you there. However, our deal, however that goes, maybe I got the wrong plays for you. However that goes, my expectation is that you score points and you win. So if my plays don't work, you find better plays. Now we're training people to be resourceful. Now we're giving them autonomy. Now we're sparking the resourcefulness in people. We're causing them to get into a problem-solving mode, which ultimately are the kind of people that we want to lead, particularly if our path as a leader is moving ourselves and our organization towards a level of freedom. This applies to parenting also, as most all business does. Parenting, and I think on this one, I would put a little bit of an asterisk as they age, right? The younger they are, the more you're managing the process, everything, because there's safety issues. However, one of the things, if you have children, and I don't like to give specific ages because people mature at different levels, you have children that you're trying to train them up to make good decisions. Ultimately, I think that's what parents do, is I'm training this child that when they go out to the world, they're going to hopefully make some good decisions for themselves. Through that, this is the method to get them there. As they start to get older, you want to move towards managing the outcome, training the process. Managing the outcome for a kid, it might be, hey, here's the grades I expect you to get. I expect you to have these kind of grades. I expect this type of result. The process to get there, I think it's probably, you come home and you do your homework. You probably go to bed. You probably have less screen time. That's the process. That's the how. It's usually in the realm of good habits that we're talking to our kids about. It's probably that. Now, back up. What if I only, or I feverishly, and this might spark some parents the wrong way, but stay with me on it. What if I feverishly managed the how? Like I obsessed over how many hours they study. I obsessed over screen time more than the result. Like that might feel right, which is why leaders go this way. And I'm telling you, it's not going to end well. And the reason is because, is it true that there are some kids that can get the result a different way? Is it true that there's some kids that, I don't know, they learn differently? Yes. They don't need to read as much. They can watch a video and learn. They're auditory visual learners versus kinesthetic reading learners. Maybe through a mentor, they can absorb more and somebody else has to read more, right? People are different. So therefore the how changes. Like that's the point. If we were talking about physical, like exercise or whatever, I needed to get to a certain body weight, a certain body fat percentage. Do I want the trainer who's going to say, look, no matter what, like I want to get to this weight and this body fat percentage. And my hope is that you're going to train me on the how. However, if my body's a little bit different than you, Mr. and Mrs. Trainer, I want you to adjust it. I want you to help me not follow exactly your plan, your diet, your nutrition. Maybe it won't work for me. Maybe it doesn't work for my body exactly the same way. Let's use your process, your how as a playbook, but be flexible on that, and be totally inflexible on the result. In other words, like if I follow your plan to the T and I don't hit my body fat, that's not good for me. I don't want that. So think about it. And when I break it down this smooth, it sounds like, well, yeah, of course, that's how I manage. That's how I lead. That's common sense. And it's not. I'm telling you, go back or pay attention this week for all of you folks that are leading people, parents, anybody, and listen to your words. Listen to where your energy goes up. Listen to where your expectations are. Listen to where your triggers are when you get upset. And most people I observe are more upset when somebody violates their process, their how, and they're not even talking about result anymore. And in business, this is where it gets cloudy. In business, it could be, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of them I like to say is like the factory example. What I want you to do and be like as a leader is what I would call like managing the widget. So in other words, if I said, like we had a factory and the factory, I'm going to grab some, the factory was, we're going to produce like these TV controllers. Then I, as a leader, my suggestion to you is I'm going to say like the controller needs to be this size and needs to have these buttons on it. I want some of these buttons to be orange, some of them to be white. And I would specify that. This is the widget. This is the output. And here's inside the factory, here's how that's made from what I understand. And yet, if you find a better way to do it, a more efficient way to do it, that still produces this exact widget, I'm probably okay with that when we get there. What I care more about is the output. What I care more about is the widget comes out this way. And again, that sounds like common sense, yet pay attention to business and you'll observe so many leaders, they stop talking about this. This is why we have people that are like, I don't even remember how to win here anymore. I don't remember how to score points here. No, these people are obsessed with like exactly the way I show up, what I wear, how I do it. And we don't even talk about this anymore. And what happens is we start to lose touch with the point of our existence in business anyway. But what are we even doing? What are we out to do? What are we out to change? And when I manage the widget, what will happen is you take over, you're in the factory, you're running the factory, and I'm the owner or the leader, and the widgets start coming out looking different. This thing is round, not rectangular. Then I'm gonna say, okay, what needs to change with that? I'm managing the outcome. That's not what we make. That's not how we win. That's not the output I'm looking for. What are you going to do? Can you change it? What are you doing? Now, sometimes I will get in and go in the factory. However, I got to tell you, most leaders live in the factory. They live in the factory so much. They watch every little move, every little assembly line move, all the people, every little thing that's happening, that they're not actually watching what's coming out the end. They're feeling the results of it by angry customers, loss of sales, profitabilities in the tool. They're feeling the results of it. The problem is they're in the factory trying to manage all the little pieces and all the little how, which by the way, might be outdated by now, so much so that they lose track of the output. Therefore, I suggest leaders work harder first on clarifying what is the widget, what is the output, what exactly does it look like, being very clear in the communication of that. Sure, having some ideas, somehow, maybe some experience on how that's produced, and yet be outside the factory enough that you're managing the widget, managing the outcome, and let go or be a little bit looser on the process while you're inside of that. Real life examples going further in business. Let's talk about a marketing person. Let's say we just hired a marketing person, and what is the outcome? So the problem is, if we hire a marketing person, I bet you 9 out of 10 companies that I've talked to hire a marketing person, I say, tell me their big rocks. Tell me what they're really responsible for. I'll hear, okay, I want them to run social media ads. Then I want them to make our newsletter. Then I want them to reply to all our customer inputs. Then I want them to come up with our slogans and stuff. And that's it. I'm like, okay, how do you know if they win? They ran the ads and they did the newsletter. It looks good. People like it. Guess what? That's managing the process. Like, is it possible somebody could come and run the ads, make the newsletter, answer all the customers, and sales go down? What if the ads suck? What if the newsletter's crap? What if they don't put it to enough people? Is that possible? Yeah, they're doing exactly what you told them to do, because what you're managing is the process. They're doing the process. Guess what? You've lost track. And what will happen is, it's just not working. Maybe it's them, maybe it's me. Then we're back to them. Maybe I should train them more. I don't know. They're the wrong person. They just don't have a good eye for the right fonts, aesthetic, and things like that. No. And it starts with, in that case, not even really starting with a clear outcome. So let's rewind. Hire a new marketing person. What's the outcome? One of those, let's pick the first one, social media. I want 20 sales this quarter as a result of your social media ads. That's an outcome. I'm going to manage that. Unflexible. By the way, if they already have experience, hey, they'll probably tell me how to get that. If not, I'm going to connect them with resources. Here we have all these resources. We have these expertise. We have these books. We have this training, this online training on how to do social media. You've got this. Here's what we've done in the past. Here's the results we've got from what we've done. Here's what we know to be true. Here's the plays that have worked for us. And yet you're here to get 20 sales this quarter from the social media ads. Now, if on that example, if I revert back to manage the process, let's say it didn't work in both scenarios. They ran the ads, they did it, we didn't get our 20 sales. Leader one, most common leader, managing processes, training on outcome. That means I would have said, like, oh, here's exactly the way we want ads run. Like around here, we do it, this many days, this much ad spend, this thing. I like the colors to be like this way. I want that, and I obsess over that. And the person does that. We don't get our 20 sales. Guess what? As the leader, I'm stuck. Like I got in the boat with them and I managed the process so much that I'm stuck. I need to solve this, or I'm going to feel guilty that maybe I should have been with the person more. Maybe I should have this. Maybe it was me. Maybe because I'm so upset with the process. It probably is because they just did what you said. They did your process. They did it. They did what you said. It didn't work. So guess what? It's on you to fix it, which means you still own the job. Remember, our rule on that is he or she who's losing sleep over a result not happening. That's who really owns this job. And you might be paying somebody for that job. I might be paying the marketing person, yet when I'm not getting the results from what the marketing person is supposed to do, and I'm the one losing sleep over it because they feel like they're doing it, I'm not getting the sales I'm looking for, and I'm the one losing sleep over it, then I'm really the marketing person. I still own that job. He or she that's losing sleep over a result not happening is the one that really owns the job. So now if I manage that process, then I own it. I'm stuck. I've got to solve it. Fast forward, I'm probably never getting freedom. Imagine if I have all of my roles that way. This is the leader who burns out. This is the leader who gets stuck. This is the leader who is a genius surrounded by 1,000 helpers and has a ceiling of achievement, and the company can never get bigger or further than their intelligence. This is the leader. I used to be this person. The S on the chest, want to save the day, Superman. Now, the same scenario, the 20, we run the ads. We don't get our 20 sales this quarter. I'm the leader that's going to manage the outcome, train the process. How does that conversation go? It's like, okay, how'd you do? Oh, we only got 5 sales, not 20. Okay. What are you going to do? What are you going to do now? I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think? Did you do the plays that we had before? Yeah, I did all those. Oh, they didn't work? No, they didn't work. Okay. Could you do them better? Is there another thing you do? No. Okay. Okay. You're here for the 20 sales on this particular thing. What do you think's next? Did you try talking to that person? So I'm going to go resource not solve. I call it the hot potato conversation. We didn't get the 20 sales is the hot potato. The moment they put that in my hands, I've lost. It's now my job to fix it. So I'm like, I'm not taking that thing. Keep it. It's in your hands. You know, the best part about your job is your job. I'm going to keep it in your hands, and I'm going to and be supportive. This isn't figure it out. Screw you. It's not that. It's okay. What are you going to do now? I'm supportive. I'm here, not abandoning you. However, like your job is your job. My job is my job. And we work together for the overall goal. And I might help them be resourceful. Hey, did you think about this? You think about this? Not getting in the boat, not going in the factory. What are you going to do next? I guess I'll try this. I guess I'll try that. How will you know that works? So now I'm going to go a little tighter because I'm not waiting a whole nother quarter. I think what I'll do is I'll play around this, or I'll go learn this, and I'll do this, and I'll tweak this. Okay, how will you know that's better than what you're doing? I think in the first week, I should see this number instead of that number. Cool. I'll talk to you in the first week, and let's see. And now, what am I doing? Managing the outcome. And I'm training the process. I'm supporting the process. I'm resourcing the process. And that person is solving the issue. And ultimately, when you get here, you start to realize, oh my gosh, I'm still the smartest one in the room. I didn't hire the solvers I thought I did. I was trying to get my, I don't know, self-worth from being the one that solved all the issues. Now you realize, oh, I need to hire solvers. Because without that, I'm the ceiling. I'm as far as this company can go, my training, my how. And what if it's a process you don't know about? What is accounting or something you don't know anything about? You'd be destroying the company by trying to manage that. So this forces you into a place. Now, fast forward, because what we're all about here on Seth Campbell Podcast is making a generational impact with your leadership. So what's the generational impact? You already know what happens for the leader, the most common leader that manages the process is they become the ceiling. They burn out. They don't keep amazing people because they don't even attract them, because amazing people want to solve problems. Amazing people want to have ownership. Amazing people want to have work that matters. They want to use their brain cells. They want to be stretched. So it doesn't end well generationally, business-wise, for the leader that obsesses over the how. By the way, we're in a day and age where the how is changing fast. How you achieve something just with technology advancements is happening fast. Now, the benefits, generational benefit of the leader who manages outcome, trains how. Think about that for a second. They are the leader who now is generating these problem solvers all across the world, right? Their organization is now filled with people who like solve problems, figure stuff out, think on their own, love what they do. They have work that matters. All humans want to have work that matters. That's making a difference. It's a fundamental need in the workforce. And what'll happen fast forward, these are people that then go and do amazing things. They may not stay with you. They may go change the world. They may change your industry. They'll have a ripple effect that could transform many generations. And believe it or not, that can all start with how you manage, how you lead, your leadership model. So I encourage you, leaders, think this week, pay attention to your words, pay attention to what you're really ticked off about or what you're really pushing on, and step back and say, wow, am I more obsessed with how they're doing this, with the process? Have I hired people to go do this, or have I hired people to achieve this? Pay attention to the verbs you use when somebody asks you, like, what's that person's job? And if the job is like, well, they're here to post ads, make this, create this, write this. Those are verbs that are process oriented, not result oriented. They're not outcomes. Well, that person's here to triple our sales. Because, by the way, it made change. Many of that came from McDonald's before I worked in real estate. And one of the great things the founder of McDonald's was famous for saying a long time ago, this has been in the 50s or 60s, when McDonald's at that time became the #1 restaurant in the world by size and volume, definitely in hamburgers. And a reporter had asked Ray Kroc, where do you think this company is going to be in the year 2000, which was way in the future back then? And he said, I don't know what Americans are going to be buying the most in the year 2000, but I do know that we'll sell the most of them. How about that? And the funny thing is, because I worked at McDonald's during this time, is it ended up being chicken at that time when that year had hit, and chicken had passed burgers or something like that. And then salads went way on the rise. And sure enough, McDonald's sold more chicken than anybody, more salads than anybody. And this was a gentleman who was flexible on the process, yet very clear on the outcome. And it was, in that case, to be number one in sales. So think about your leadership. Think about, some people, I think, avoid managing outcomes because it may come off as cold. Like, all you care about is the results. You don't care about. That's not true. How you care about people is how you talk to them and how you treat them. And you can absolutely care about results because, by the way, probably the best thing you could do for your kids, for your people, for everybody is hold an expectation for the result and give flexibility and spark their inner genius. Raise up problem solvers by being a trainer on the process, not a manager of the process. So with that, I love you. I thank you. Go forth and prosper. Look forward to the next episode. I am now going to pause for the recording that we put out on the podcast. And for those of you who may not know, we do have a private Facebook group, Seth Campbell Podcast on Facebook. If you join that, the Insiders group, you'll be able to watch this on video because we record on video. And I do a little private Q&A with some folks that listen in, never know what we're going to talk about. And the only way you can get that content is by joining us on the Seth Campbell Podcast Facebook group. So look forward to continuing the leadership journey together. Thanks, everybody. All right. I wasn't supposed to hit pause, was I, on that? Sorry, Caitlin. All right, let's roll. I need to take everybody off the mute. Questions, comments, thoughts, concerns. What's going through your head as we have today's conversation? What is your inner voice saying to you?
It's saying, shit, I'm a total piece of shit.
Okay.
And well, I have a lot to learn.
That is an aggressive inner voice. Yours must be friends with mine. All right. Now what's called, break that down for me. Without the self-abuse, like what is it that you're saying you manage on process too much?
Definitely manage on process too much, and no tolerance, low to no tolerance for mistakes. Yeah. According to my definition of mistakes.
Yeah, that's brilliant insight. What would you say your definition of mistakes is, by the way?
It's really probably just my opinion of what should have happened versus what happened. It's pretty dichotomous. Yeah.
Like kind of how this should have been done this way and it wasn't.
And therefore it's not done now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I always appreciate when people open up and share, because we all have that same inner voice. We all have the same struggles. So it's good when people share. And you should know that based on like behavior profiling, we all have behavior profile. Some behavior profiles lean more this direction versus others, right? This is one that is more difficult for a type of behavior profile that is very concerned about the how. And that's a good behavior. All behavior profiles are good. For example, like in accounting or in legal work, the how very much matters, right? The thing I probably didn't get into there is the how and the outcome are almost the same. Like breaking laws of accounting is not a path to the outcome you ultimately want. So the how matters there. So there is a way where right, wrong, or correct, incorrect, so to speak, on a procedure does matter. But usually that's in the vein of the outcome. I think what happens is some of us that are wired more towards that, we tend to collapse that along everything. Like, and this is not accounting. There's no laws that govern the how on some of this stuff, a lot of this stuff. creativity can still exist. Innovation happens there. What else? What are the thoughts, questions, inner dialogue is happening as y'all hear this? Tell me what you leave thinking like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go practice this. Or I just thought of a person or a hire I just made, and oh my gosh, I made their whole job, or my whole conversation with this person was like, do this. And we didn't even talk about to achieve that.
What if people don't understand? What if you do use the right words and you do focus on the right outcome in your words with a person, but the fit is wrong, like you don't understand each other or they don't get it in how you mean it.
Yeah, that's what you want to get to. And you want to actually get there as fast as you can, first to determine mutually, is this the right role for them? I think too often we think of wrong role for people as like one side, like, oh, I need to decide if this is the right or wrong role for that person. If it's the wrong role for that person, they're not happy either. They're not going to want to live the rest of their life doing that thing. They feel it too. They don't feel like they're a great contributor. So it's mutual. Hey, you know what? I don't think this is like my cup of tea. That's cool. You have a cup of tea. Maybe it's not this. We can mutually talk about that and have that together. However, it's not always that, but what you want to get to is stop avoiding getting there. And that's where things get cloudy, because we just try to manage the process so much. It's like, okay, now try this. Okay, now try this. Oh, what about this? What about, he didn't do it exactly the way I said it. I would do it this way. Move it out of the way. Let me just do it. And all of those roads lead to the person not growing, not figuring stuff out. You want to go towards some of that discomfort. Okay, you didn't get it. Now what are you going to do? Not abandoning, not rude, totally supportive, yet it's their issue. It baked into 20 sales this quarter is how to get there. Like baked into that is solving it. So you want to get there and you need to figure out, can this person solve it? Or are you always going to have to be there to solve it? And you might be okay with that, by the way. It's not 100%. However, for most of you can't do that for 5 different roles. You can't be the one that has solved 5 different roles, 2 different roles, 3 different roles. Or if your goal is to get to freedom as the leader, you definitely can't have one of those people. So you want to get to, okay, are you going, because by the way, I could ask in reverse. What happens when that's you? Like, think about your past. Any of you, have you ever had a thing that like you were stuck on? Like, how did you get where you are today? What'd you do? Just anybody. What'd you do? What did you do?
I just followed what felt right, given the situation at the moment.
And if it didn't work, what'd you do? How'd you end up achieving?
Well, making big decisions took months usually, because it was scary. And because I knew where I wanted to get to, I guess naturally I've evaluated the ways that it could not work. Or
there you go. You worked through it. That's it. So think about anything that you've achieved. This goes for all of us. Think about something that you've achieved that you failed at the first couple of times. What did you do? I love having this conversation with leaders that like, yeah, but maybe I just need to give the person one. Think about something that you achieved. It works well in real estate, because I'll usually have this conversation with a top producer. Okay, rewind to the beginning when you didn't know what you were doing and you were no good and you didn't get hired for a bunch of times. What did you do? And the answer is always some version of, man, I just figured it out. I pushed, I talked to this, I got a coach, I got this, I got resource, grind, determination. Okay. So, what you're saying is you didn't have somebody that just did it for you. You're saying you didn't have somebody next to you that just solved it all for you. You're saying that you just had somebody that gave you everything. No, I had to figure that crap out. Okay, there you go. That's who you need to hire. So ultimately, you hire talent, you surround yourself with talent, and talent for the role. Remember, like, people will go figure stuff out, particularly it's in the vein of something I care about. Like you said, I care about it, so I went after it. It's the same thing. And we rob people when we try to manage the how. And most of the time, like, they might come up with a better how. That's probably why you hired them. They're probably wired for that better. They probably like it more than you do. So manage the outcome at the beginning. If they don't know anything, sure, give them the how, give them the procedure, particularly if you already know it to be true, you know it to work, but recognize that whatever you give them has a limit to how far it can go. And what you want is the person that's going to take it 10x. And through that is going to have to be some level of figuring it out. And I want to be there encouraging that person. Okay, cool. Now what are you going to do? Oh, have you thought about that? I want to be around solvers. I don't want to be around people like, okay, Seth, now what should I do? Now what should I do? Now what should I do? Okay, how about now? I didn't have that person. So that's ultimately, you want to get to that conversation as quickly as you can. Okay, now what are you going to do? Okay, now what? Then what? Have you thought about this? What about that? How about that? I'm not taking the hot potato. When I say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Did you talk to the hot potato? I'll be like, oh, I'll go ask so-and-so and I'll tell you what they say. All right, let me take that. And then I'll go, no. Is that helpful? Anybody else? Burning desire to share? All right. Love you all. Have a great week. Thanks, everybody.